Hey everybody, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I speak with Ali Hafizji. He's the CEO of Wednesday Solutions, and he's an engineer turned entrepreneur. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jason. So nice to be here.
Sounds like we're both in the same boat. I'm also an engineer turned entrepreneur, maybe entrepreneur turned engineer, actually, because I started out as an entrepreneur as a little kid. When did you first
Okay.
realize when was the first moment you realized you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I think I've always wanted to sort of help people and solve problems. Like that's always been something that I've been very excited about. One of the ways of doing that for me was engineering because you are, at the end of the day, finding the best way to solve a problem. Somewhere down that journey, I just realized that I wanted to solve problems that were at a little bit of a higher abstraction level. Things that excited me weren't, help me find the best way to solve an engineering, like if from an engineering
Right.
perspective. But what started to sort of intrigue me was, how do you get your first 1,000 customers? How do you get them to pay? Like these sort of problems really started to excite me, and that sort of led to an entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, because
So I think I've just been solving problems. Yeah.
you just brought up a great point, and this is something that's very common in the startup world. Is
Yeah.
an engineer builds an app, a platform, a microservice, a SaaS, anything, and then they realize, oh, but no one's using it, and,
Yeah.
and they have to figure out, how do I get people to actually use this thing? I solved the problem, but people don't
Yeah.
know that the solution exists. It's a very common
Right.
challenge that entrepreneurs face, and this is where your marketing and business hats have to get put on. So
Mhm.
when you launched one, well, it sounds like you solved a lot of problems over time. So let's pick an MVP that you launched maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whenever, and you
Mhm.
realize, oh, now I have to focus on something when I'm launching the MVP. Walk me through the process of launching the MVP and what you had to kind of focus on.
Well, I think what I'll do now is very different from what I was sort of doing before because I feel like now I have a better, I just have more experience.
Well, that kind of
Uh,
helps our audience learn from your mistakes. That's kind of my point here. Is I want to know, like, what did you do back then that you don't do now? Let's kind of talk about those mistakes.
yeah, I think one of the first things that you end up doing that I see a lot of people do is you just focus a lot on vanity metrics. I
Mm.
think that's a big one. And I've done that myself. You launch something that you find early adopters start to use. And these vanity metrics may be something like an app install, the amount of traffic that's coming to your website. Um, it could even be the number of signups if you've created like a SaaS. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to lead into a scalable business or you have found a PMF. You typically get early adopters, and as the label suggests, they are early adopters. They're open to try something that is half baked, and they're here to give you feedback. The problem is people don't listen. They stop there, and they keep focusing on those vanity metrics. You need to complete your product loop. So I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that I've learned to do well.
Yeah, and I tell people the same thing. I say you can't just keep building and building and building and building. You have to get early feedback and iterate based on that feedback, because a lot of people out there, they seem to be chasing trends. Like, for example, if they build a product
Hmm.
but they see there's other products out there that are similar to theirs, not the same
Hmm.
space but a vertical, say, oh, I should be adding that module to my platform. And I'm like, well, no, focus on what you built, your core value proposition, get people to use that. Don't worry about those other trends. You're chasing those. Create a new
Yeah.
trend, right? Talk about creating a new trend, and like how, you can stop getting stuck in this whole cycle of iterating and product market fit. I mean, you have to be able to sell something at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we tell people is, you need to focus on, especially when you're in this MVP to PMF phase, you need to really focus on acquisition and retention metrics. Um, and everything that you do needs to be non-scalable. Try and find ways to acquire customers that actually work repeatably, and then scale it up.
Yeah.
Similarly, look at your retention metrics. Look at your day 1, day 7, day 30 metric. Are people coming back? And
Yeah.
if they're not, solve that problem. Try and figure out the steps that a person takes to actually get the outcome that your product provides,
Yeah.
and work on those. Reduce, maybe it's about reducing the friction there.
Yeah, I totally
Um,
agree. Because it could be onboarding process issues, it could be functionality issues, it could be, speed on your platform. Maybe it's slow. I mean, there's so many different things you have to look at. And I
yeah.
kind of want to switch gears for a minute because I know in the notes it mentioned something about AI and how you use AI to enhance your development. So, I mean, I've
Mhm.
been dabbling in, obviously ChatGPT coding, but also looking into Lovable, which didn't really impress me too much. I was looking into Cursor a bit as well. What's your take on vibe coding? I guess we'll call it is what everyone's calling it, but also in your case, AI enhanced development, which might accelerate your MVP or your PMF. Talk about that for a bit.
Yeah, so we're in the services space, and one of the service that we're focusing on a lot is Launch, which pretty much works with founders who are in this journey of finding PMF. So they have something built and they need to find PMF. And what we're really trying to do is we're trying to say that, okay, how can we provide an AI-enabled service? So while there is vibe coding, I think vibe coding is really good if you want to build out an MVP yourself.
Hmm.
But when you sort of reach that phase, I think you need a little more. You need to work with the team and have a back and forth conversation. It's just that that team needs to now look very different.
Yeah.
So the way that we're thinking about it, and that's typically been like an agile model where you would sort of figure out, okay, let's prioritize and figure out what we need to build now. And then at the end of the sprint, there would be some kind of demo. The way that we're thinking about it is the service is designed to not offer an agile sprint, but an offer a vibe sprint. And a vibe
Interesting.
sprint is exactly like an agile sprint, but it's just with lesser people and you get 3x the outcome.
Right. Because you're
And the way
using it
you
because
do
you're
that,
using AI.
you just use the AI. Yeah,
So
exactly.
so
So the
walk so
role of
walk
the
walk
founder,
walk through the process of, like, let's say someone's out there right now, they're trying to build an MVP. I know a lot of people
yeah.
who are, and they're using AI to build that MVP. What's your take on whether or not, what tools they should use to expedite the process besides good old fashioned chat GPT?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of good stuff being built on Bolt and Replit. Those are the things that we like. We have tried Lovable. I think it generates some really good landing pages. But I
Not
think if
much
you want to
else.
really build out like a web app, then you want to focus a little bit more on Bolt and Cursor and some of these tools. But I think to build an MVP, you can do a lot yourself. It's just that once you reach that phase, that's when you really need um,
Scalability.
a a different kind of team. I feel like we're at that point where your team needs to look very different. Whether you build an in-house team or whether you work with somebody outside, it just needs to be different. It cannot be agile anymore.
So let's talk about this for a second, because this is really interesting to me because I'm in the middle of the same situation. I'm running a team. I have, an MP.
Right.
My product is out in the market. I have an AI SaaS
Hmm.
product, and we're using AI, but we're also developers, kind of really hands on.
Sure.
So and I myself, I'm building MVPs as we speak right now. So what does it look like? Is it, a back end developer, a front end developer, an infrastructure security kind of services developer, and then AI being used by all three to connect how it's being built? Are they using AI on the side to build the product and then doing code revisions, refactoring, etc.? How Walk me through the process, because this is really interesting and we never talk about this on my show.
Yeah, sure. So I think that the way that we do it is we don't really refer to them as a back end or a front end engineer. We just refer to them as an AI full stack engineer.
Hmm.
They need to be able to use AI to build entire features. So the way I think about it is that an engineer needs to now participate in ideation.
Hmm.
They also need to start thinking in experiments, and
Hmm.
they need to use AI to build the entire feature end to end. And everything after that, which is, I built it out, let's do a code review, let's push it out to production, let's do, a test round. All of this today can be automated with AI. There are tools that write the test cases for you. There are tools that help you do the review and point cases, which need a human to sort of look at. All of this can be sort of reduced, like the time spent on that can be reduced a lot just by using AI.
What are some of those
So,
automation tools you're talking? Because you're just saying they can be automated, but like to me, staging, testing, and then production pushes and all those kind of testing. How do you automate that?
so we're right now using a tool called Keploy. And what Keploy does is that it actually writes unit tests, integration tests, and acceptance tests based on um, the code that you commit.
Okay.
So what you can do is you can actually set up I mean, it depends on how you want to use the tool, but you could actually set up a Git hook that gets triggered every time somebody does a push.
Right.
So you get auto-generated tests. And that reduces the amount of time that you would spend writing the test.
That's very cool.
And you can integrate, and you can think of Keploy as something that learns on its own. So it'll understand that, here's the sort of
When you
programming conventions
when
that
you
are
push this
used.
code, when you push this code,
Yes.
then start this test because it's kind of
Yes.
that makes a lot more sense.
Yes.
And now you guys believe in a lot of offshore teams. Of course, I mean I believe you're based out of India or
Yes.
maybe. So at that point, a lot of people have a lot of skepticism working offshore. Of course, over decades of I've done it. I've had some bad experiences. I've had some really good experiences. And how do you think people can leverage offshore teams without losing the control of the code, but also the quality of the platform?
I think this is largely an evaluation problem. Typically, I think most people need to identify a framework to evaluate who to work with, whether you're working with somebody nearshore, offshore, or you want to build a team. The way I think about it is, try and look for people who are actually using tools that are relevant for now. And you want to really look for things that align with your goals. So, for example, I believe that if you are in this phase of finding PMF, distribution is getting tougher than ever.
Yeah.
Even though product engineering may be getting easier, but distribution is getting tougher. So, as a founder, you need to spend more time and effort there if you need to get more people or your ICP to look at what you've built. That means that you need somebody to come in to think product, to prioritize with you, to design and build. You're not really looking for just a skill set anymore. You're looking for an outcome because your time, which would have traditionally been spent sort of deciding what that outcome is and just getting the skills that are required to finish it, is now going to go in distribution and marketing. And no matter how much we say that that may not happen or may happen, or it depends on an industry, literally every channel that we know today has got a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And founders will need to put themselves out there.
I think
So
this
they
is
need,
the
I think,
I think
yeah,
this is the
go ahead.
this is the biggest misconception out there as far as I can see is, oh my God, I have the best idea for an app that's going to solve this problem, but then there are a
Yeah.
hundred other ones like it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
how do you differentiate yourself from them? And the answer, as far as I can tell, maybe you can say I'm wrong or I'm right, is user experience. It's really user experience is really the king right now because, like you just said a minute ago, it's getting easier and easier to build products. I'm literally building an MVP now that I couldn't have done a couple of years ago. It would have taken me months or years to do. Now I'm doing it in maybe a
Yeah.
couple of weeks. So, but that doesn't matter anymore because so can another 1,000 people. So how do you differentiate yourself? Talk about user experience and how that's the differentiator, unless you have other ideas.
I think user experience is going to be key. So a lot of things are going to be differentiators, in my opinion. But I do agree with you that I think user experience is going to be extremely important. If two products are providing the same value proposition, they're priced the same, they're probably, using the same marketing channels. The difference is going to be how does the user feel after using one product versus the next?
100%.
Does he feel like, hey, I can connect with these guys? There's somebody who is sort of responding to me. I feel like uh, it's very easy to work with, or there was no friction when I signed up, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
I think a lot more product-led growth, a lot more thinking around the different phases of a user when they use the product, which means, your acquisition, retention, referral, revenue, and making each step friction-free will be the difference. I also think that what matters a lot today as a differentiator is the way that you position yourself.
Mm.
I think today, if you've got a very good product partner, they can think of how you can create multiple MVPs, just like you told me. I think AI is extremely powerful in building tools in the acquisition phase.
Yeah.
You can sort of create a number of tools or mini tools or freemium tools around the acquisition side of things and make your value prop or give a small sliver of what you deliver free.
Yeah, microservices we've been talking about that a
Yeah.
lot lately in my team. And I know we have to wrap up. So I know that you guys are running Wednesday Solutions. And if people want to
Mhm.
work with you, you're a smart guy. You are using AI. You know how to leverage teams. It sounds like you know how to build an MVP, which most companies don't really do that. They're just like, let's just build, phase 10 right off the bat and get as much money as they
Yeah.
can from a client. But I really respect you for sticking to MVP and PMF. How can people find out more about working with you, and how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you're sort of in this journey where you've got a MVP built, a few customers, and you want to sort of find PMF, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Ali Hafizji, or you can just reach out to us through our website, which is wednesday.is. I'm happy to talk.
Perfect, guys. Wednesday Solutions. If you are looking for offshore, but you haven't been able to find a good partner, talk to Ali, Wednesday.is. Check them out and reach out to them on LinkedIn. Reach out to both of us on LinkedIn. We're always available to talk to you guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you in the next one.